In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, more than 3 miles beneath the surface, a Soviet submarine lay broken on the seafloor. No sunlight reached it. No rescue mission could touch it. And officially, no one was supposed to know where it was. But the CIA knew. And in the early 1970s, they approved one of the most ambitious covert operations in modern history. The mission was not to destroy a target, not to steal documents from an embassy, not to recruit an informant. The mission was to lift part of a Soviet nuclear submarine from the bottom of the ocean. A submarine that had sunk years earlier. A submarine that could contain missiles, code systems, sonar equipment, cryptographic material, and the kind of military secrets intelligence agencies spend decades trying to obtain. The operation was called Project Azorian, and to make it possible, the CIA needed something that did not yet exist. They needed a ship so large, so strange, and so technically advanced that even its construction would raise questions. So they created a cover story. The ship was not being built for the CIA. It was not designed for espionage. It was not part of a classified Cold War recovery mission. Officially, it was a deep-sea mining vessel, a private commercial ship built to collect manganese nodules from the ocean floor. A perfectly boring explanation, and that was the genius of it. Because in the 1970s, deep-sea mining sounded futuristic, expensive, and complicated enough that almost no one could easily challenge it. If someone asked why a billionaire industrialist was building a massive vessel capable of operating in extreme depths, the answer was simple. Howard Hughes wanted to mine the ocean. His company, Summa Corporation, gave the project a civilian face. The CIA got its cover, and the ship got its name, the Hughes Glomar Explorer. From the outside, it looked like a triumph of private engineering. In reality, it was one of the most expensive masks ever placed over an intelligence operation. The Glomar Explorer was enormous, more than 600 feet long, tens of thousands of tons of steel. A vessel built not for ordinary sailing, but for a single impossible task: to position itself over a wreck nearly 5,000 meters below and pull part of it back into the world. But the most important part of the ship was not visible from the outside. Hidden beneath the hull was the real mechanism of the mission, a massive mechanical claw. Its code name was Clementine. It was built to descend into the darkness, reach the shattered submarine, grip it, and lift it slowly through thousands of meters of open water. That sounds simple when described in one sentence. It was not. At that depth, pressure crushes almost everything. The ocean does not forgive weak metal, bad calculations, or unstable movement. A small error at the surface becomes a catastrophic failure miles below. The ship had to remain almost perfectly positioned above the wreck. The lifting system had to survive enormous stress. The claw had to grip damaged metal that had been sitting on the seafloor for years. And all of it had to happen without the Soviet Union realizing what was being done. This was not just engineering. It was espionage performed at industrial scale. And for a while, the cover held. The world saw a deep-sea mining ship. The CIA saw a floating recovery platform. The Soviet Union saw something unusual, but not clearly enough to stop it. Then the mission began. In the summer of 1974, the Glomar Explorer moved into position above the wreck site. Somewhere below it, in total darkness, lay the remains of the Soviet submarine K-129. The ship lowered its capture vehicle into the water, meter by meter, hour by hour, down through layers of ocean, past the point where divers could survive, past the point where ordinary salvage was possible, down into a world where the pressure alone could turn failure into wreckage. The claw reached the submarine. It gripped. And then, the long lift began. For the CIA, this was the moment years of planning had been built around. Hundreds of millions of dollars, a fake mining empire, a custom-built ship, a secret engineering program. All of it came down to one question. Could they bring the submarine up? At first, the answer appeared to be yes. The wreck began to rise, slowly. But then, during the ascent, something went wrong. Part of the lifting mechanism failed. The submarine section broke apart. Most of what the CIA had tried to recover slipped free and fell back into the abyss. After years of planning, after one of the most complex covert engineering operations ever attempted, the ocean took most of the prize back. What finally reached the ship was only a portion of what they wanted. According to later accounts, it may have been a relatively small forward section, not the full target, not the clean intelligence victory planners had hoped for. A fragment. And that fragment created a question that still has no simple answer. Was Project Azorian a failure, or was it a partial success so sensitive that the real value was never fully disclosed? Because even a fragment of a Soviet submarine could matter. Inside that recovered section could have been technical hardware, sonar equipment, structural materials, weapons components, design clues, anything that revealed how Soviet submarines were built, how they operated, and how they might be detected. But the most tempting possibility was always something else: code material, cryptographic systems, the kind of information that could expose communications, procedures, or military secrets far beyond the metal of the submarine itself. Some accounts suggest that the most valuable material was lost when much of the wreck broke away. Other accounts suggest that valuable intelligence may still have been recovered. The official record does not fully settle the question, and that uncertainty is part of what makes Project Azorian so powerful. The public knows the ship existed. The public knows the recovery happened. The public knows the mission did not retrieve everything, but the full intelligence value remains hidden behind redactions. There is another detail that changes the tone of the story. The recovered wreckage was not empty. Inside were the remains of 6 Soviet sailors, men who had died years earlier, far from home, inside a submarine their country had lost in secret. The CIA gave them a formal burial at sea. It was recorded on film. It was conducted with military honors, and later the footage was given to Russia. For a moment, inside one of the coldest operations of the Cold War, the story became human. Not American, not Soviet, just human. 6 men, recovered from the ocean, buried with respect by the intelligence service of an enemy nation. But while the burial became known, the secrets remained, and then the cover story began to collapse. Not because of a spy, not because of a satellite, not because of a Soviet operation, but because of a burglary. Someone broke into the offices of Howard Hughes' Summa Corporation. Among the stolen materials were documents that pointed towards something far larger than commercial deep-sea mining. The trail eventually led journalists toward the CIA, and when reporters began asking questions, the agency faced a problem. If they denied the operation, they might be lying. If they confirmed it, they would expose one of the most sensitive intelligence missions of the Cold War, so the CIA chose a third option. It refused to confirm or deny. That phrase became famous. We can neither confirm nor deny. It sounded like a non-answer, but legally and politically it became something much bigger. It became the Glomar response, named after the Glomar Explorer, a formal way for the government to say that even admitting whether records exist could reveal classified information. And that legacy still exists today, long after the ship changed hands, long after the Cold War ended, long after the submarine wreck faded into history. The phrase remained. Project Azorian did not just leave behind a mystery on the ocean floor. It changed the language of secrecy, but the operation also left behind another legacy: the engineering. Because whatever Project Azorian failed to recover, it proved something extraordinary. Humans could reach into the deep ocean, grip a massive object, and attempt to lift it from depths once considered almost unreachable. That capability did not disappear. The same world that once treated deep-sea recovery as near science fiction now has industries built around underwater robotics, deep-sea salvage, offshore engineering, and commercial exploration. The cover story was fake, but the technology was real. That is one of the strange ironies of Project Azorian. A fake mining ship helped push forward the kind of deep ocean capability that real mining, real salvage, and real underwater operations would later depend on. Espionage and industry became tangled together. A lie told to protect a secret mission helped reveal what future ocean technology might become. And that brings us back to the central question: was Project Azorian worth it? On paper, the answer looks uncertain. The CIA did not recover everything it wanted. Most of the submarine was lost again. The cost was enormous. The public exposure was embarrassing, and even official assessments suggested the result fell short of the original hope. But intelligence does not always work like ordinary accounting. One recovered device can matter. One technical detail can change an entire detection strategy. One piece of hull material can reveal how an enemy builds for pressure, stealth, or survival. One recovered document can justify years of risk. And because the most important details remain classified, the public is left trying to measure a mission without seeing its most important evidence. That is why Project Azorian refuses to become a simple story. It was not a clean success. It was not a clean failure. It was something stranger. A billion-dollar gamble in the deep ocean. A secret ship built behind a billionaire's name. A mechanical claw lowered into darkness. A Soviet submarine lifted from the abyss, and then mostly lost again. What came up has never been fully revealed. What fell back down may never be found. And what the CIA learned from those fragments may still be hidden in classified files. Project Azorian is remembered as one of the boldest covert operations in history. But maybe its real importance is not only what it recovered. Maybe it is what it exposed. That during the Cold War, no depth was too extreme. No engineering challenge too absurd, no cover story too elaborate, no price too high. If the secret was valuable enough, nations were willing to reach 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean to take it. And when asked what happened, they would answer with only one sentence: we can neither confirm nor deny. And if you want more stories like this, hidden operations, classified machines, abandoned projects, and the strange decisions governments tried to bury, subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if this briefing pulled you in, because the next file is already waiting to be opened.